Hey all, every game in the Modern Doom trilogy is hailed by casual audiences for stepping away from the Call of Duty gameplay to focus on a combat loop, injecting gameplay depth directly into the player's brains via resource logistics. But this depth didn't just apply to the game design. On a coding and mechanical level, the systems interact in strange and interesting ways, allowing for some of the most broken speedruns I have ever seen. Doom 2016 had rail boosting, Doom Eternal had slope boosting, and Dark Ages is no different. In fact, I think it's the most broken yet. I'm not even joking, 4 minutes after the game was released, speedrunners have been breaking this game wide open. In a few weeks, we were able to get our times to around an hour, and in the months after, this game can be beaten in less than 45 minutes. I'm gonna be going over the run in almost too much detail to explain exactly how some people like beating these games as fast as possible, and the wacky mechanics that allow for it. So without further ado, let's just get into it. In order for y'all to understand what I'm about to show you, I do have to give you some context. The run we're looking at is an any percent speedrun, sometimes also called any percent unrestricted, which just means that the goal of the speedrun is getting to the end of the game as fast as possible, with no restrictions on the techniques used. But yes, that means glitches are allowed. In fact, they're encouraged. I understand that this isn't most people's cup of tea, and that's why there are the any percent restricted and 100% speedruns, which rely way less on glitches. I'll talk about those at some point, but today is not that day. This speedrun was performed by Shining Face, who also fact-checked the words you're currently hearing to make sure this video was as factually accurate as possible. They will be playing on the difficulty that totally isn't I'm Too Young to Die at its default settings. There are speedruns which allow runners to adjust the game speed slider as well, but those are a different category. It's segmented, which means that Shining did not go through all of this in one attempt, but rather he grinded each level of the run and gave me the best time for each of the 22 missions. The speedrun was also down-patched, as some of the glitches and strategies were patched out of the game after launch. This run is done on Update 1 for those curious. This run is also done on PC, as some of the tricks and strategies are exclusive to this platform, which will become readily obvious about right now.
And we are about to watch someone break our video game.
This level will have some completely normal gameplay, as Shining will forget where he's at mid-speedrun to open the map to find out where he needs to go. The level starts right outside the village, but Shining has to get to the coast at the end. Oh, he's there.
I knew they were going to play fast. I didn't know they were going to play that fast.
As I said, no cheating is done in this run, despite how you feel about that trick. This is something called a mantle warp. To fully explain, let's go back to Doom 2016 any%. The main trick of this game is called a rail boost, where barely missing a rail would send the runner flying at fast speeds. This would only happen on select surfaces, but it is a consistent mechanic. It does this by taking where you missed the ledge and giving you speed in the direction of that ledge, and then resetting your speed after you are on said ledge. This is quite a buggy fix, as the function would just work differently depending on the type of ledge or rail. So in practice, some specific ledges just become speed boost points. It is my theory that in an effort to remove this tech, that mantle warping was born. The game checks where you are manslaying every single time and forces you to be at the mantle location on the last frame. This check is automated to see the map coordinates for that. So in the frame the check is going on, if you just drag the map coordinates move. So the game force teleports the Slayer to wherever you move the map to. Because it is dependent on the last frame you mantle, it is beneficial to lower the FPS that the game runs at. So Shining has set up a hotkey to limit the frame rate to a low FPS to make it easier to know when the last frame of the mantle really is. And modifying the FPS of the game is as easy as binding a console commands to a key press, of which we allow this in the speedrun community because all this does is save menuing to an FPS limit in the options menu.
Yeah.
We mentioned to Hugo for like a year, and he's like, "No, keep it in. No one's gonna find that."
He was going to write a feature for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And just like that, we're at the end of the first level, where Shining will set up at a turret and shoot at enemies until they die. This turret section is very on rails and can't be sped up too much. Shoot the explosive enemies as fast as possible, use the charge shots on the Titan when it starts to fire its first attack, and that's about it. Hold on one second. I thought these games stepped away from the Call of Duty combat loop. Huh. And in just over 1 minute, the first mission is complete. Shining then moves on to... After loading in, he moves to grab the first upgrade to the shield, the chainsaw. obviously. It's important to note that any collectible Shining leaves in the previous levels stay there. Casually, you're supposed to obtain the Power Gauntlet and the Shredder from Village of Colleen, and Shining has neither. After loading a checkpoint to teleport back to the beginning of the level, Shining will find a ledge and fast travel to the final arena of the level. This level ends when this fight is completed. The encounters in Dark Ages are structured with a concept known as trigger demons. These are enemies that progress the encounter into the next state, where the encounter will change to have different enemies spawn, and with new trigger demons for the next wave after that. This process repeats until the final state of the encounter is reached, and its end condition met. The end condition in most cases is every demon dead, every non-fodder demon dead, or one demon dead specifically. What Shining does here is go from trigger demon to trigger demon to trigger demon, shooting them point blank with the shotgun, throwing the shield to stun lock them and deal extra damage, and then shield bash to the next one. The final wave of this encounter spawns in a leader demon, a boss variant of an enemy with increased HP and various other changes. Shining will shoot at it until it dies.
I'm almost shocked when they have to stop and do anything.
Also known as the first mech level of the run. Immediately, Shining will position themselves beside a tentacle and aim precisely at this corner to perform a dash boost. And now we're out of bounds. This results from two physics interactions. The video game wants to conserve momentum, which will keep the mech moving, which you can think of like a reflection, bouncing off of a surface, kinda like how a pool ball bounces off the edge of the table. There's also collision ejection. Dark Ages provides a force on the player whenever they start to clip into the surface. This dash gives enough speed to go into the slope just a little bit, which gives even more force upwards. These two effects combine to launch Shining all the way on top of an invisible wall. This wall, of course, normally meant to keep the player in the map, but it will be used as a walking platform to skip the first 3 combat encounters of the level. The exact pathing here is actually pretty precise, and Shining will use visual cues to distinguish where exactly to walk this entire time.
It's like a Super Mario type of cheat, you know, you just kind of jump up.
Can I ask the question of why is it even there?
A lot of times we will clip the top of a section just to kind of keep you fully contained, which obviously did not help here. So,
And much like the previous level, this combat encounter is required to be done to access the end level boss fight. All 3 Titans will be punched to death, with Shining trying to conserve their phytometer for the high burst damage 2-charge punch. But wait, that was the use of the high-powered 2-charge punch for free. The charge from the phytometer gets depleted just after enemy Titans get hit. So, if you dodge to cancel the attack just as the fist makes contact with the Titan, it's just free. This strategy is so precise that even Shining struggles with getting it, but he goes for it every opportunity, as failing it loses almost no time. And that's basically it for what's going on here. The final boss tyrant will also be fought, where the second mechanic of these mech sections are introduced. Don't punch during the shield block on this dude. That's it. Alright, I know. I painted these sections as a bit simple. Where Shining will find a ledge, and you know what will happen. He'll warp out of bounds and jump to a checkpoint trigger that extends barely under the ground and load checkpoint. This will teleport him back in bounds, allowing him to pick up a ruby and go to the second part of the level. Afterwards, Shining will pick up the Impaler, which will be a go-to damage source weapon for the middle of the game. The gun is just really good, okay? But for now, Shining will just mantle a ledge and teleport halfway across the map to grab a ruby, an upgrade material for later. And then, mantle warp again to the end level boss fight of Vagary Champion. By moving in a precise path, Shining will confuse the boss's AI. This works because the boss is unable to detect the player if they are close enough to the edge of the map. So walking in this line to the edge of the map will just make it never see us.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he doesn't even know he's there.
Brandon.
Do we have to fix all this stuff right now?
That is so funny.
Oh, and after not having enough ammo to kill it, Shining will have to close the distance and shoot at the vagary until it dies. The introductory dragon level. And of course, the dragon tutorial section must be played in its entirety. Also say hi to Surat, who's the goodest boy and nothing bad will ever happen to him in between boss phase transitions. Flying in this section is just taking optimal racing lines, and it's that way until Shining gets to the Titan. Shining will kill all of them instantly by firing the gun, like, really fast. When the shoot key is fired while on Dragonback, it will fire at a set rate when you hold the key, but it will also fire as fast as you can repeatedly click the button. So Shining has the shoot bound to scroll wheel, and will bait an attack to get empowered shots with a successful dodge, and then kill everything. This scroll to shoot on Dragon strategy is really buggy, and will regularly break the game. So Shining Face has every scroll shoot scenario planned in advance. Then, after racing a hell ship and parallel parking, Shining will finish the dragon tutorial and load into the level. And Shining will immediately fly to a spot under all the rocks and get out of bounds.
Where's he going? What's down there?
So the game normally, when you fly too far away from a dragon section, it will turn you back. But if you're just very persistent about it, it won't. At least in this case right here.
This is like you're having guests over your house and they go into your bedroom closet where you stuck all the crap before they came over to make the house look clean.
Brandon, I'm just upset. You know, we give you all this beautiful technology, and you can't even art the underside of a massive level.
Making games is hard. We've talked about this, right? Like
After flying to a big sky blob and through it, Shining will arrive at the final landing zone of the level. This encounter will show us why the Impaler is used for combat. Peeling back the curtain, it gets bonus damage on headshots, and luckily, Shining's aim is pretty good. After taking down the initial trigger demons of a Mancubus and a Pinky Jockey, a Vagary will spawn in, and after breaking its armor and dispatching it and the surrounding Mancubi and Hell Knights, the level is over as soon as Shining walks into the building. Siege Part 1 starts a bit differently. I'm just fucking with ya. The first thing we do is warp to the flail. This will come in handy later as we need a melee weapon for the run. The next thing he'll do is mantle warp out of bounds and hit the end level trigger. That is arguably the longest level in the game, done in the shortest amount of time so far.
he just skipped the entire map of Siege.
That's crazy.
Well, there you go.
That's just crazy.
Just so you know, that map is fun. You just deprived yourself.
Siege Part 2 starts by
Shield is down, and the gate is taken. Yeah, damage.
You bypassing the fun stuff.
A bit of context for this next trick is that sometimes levels coexist at the same time. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that Shining can do this.
Uh-oh. This looks bad.
That warp skips not one, but 2 levels. Arguably the most precise skip in the run. The mantle warp has to be done within a range of about 10 units or else the skip is impossible to do, which is smaller than your average hand twitch. Shining will then trigger the introductory leader encounter, where the goal is to get this purple meter down to 0, and then kill the leader demon, which is the red health bar. The stronger the demon is, the more purple they take off this meter. So Shining prioritizes killing heavy demons, making sure to shield bash to clear distance quickly, headshot with the Impaler for maximum damage, and to throw the shield to stun enemies so that they're easier to shoot. Shining will move in a clockwise path as most enemies spawn near the edge of the arena. By the time he circles the arena once, the leader demon will become vulnerable, allowing him to...
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're...
This is where Shining will, of course...
You may have to repair one to reach the...
Holy Jesus. That was a good map too. You're missing out on some good stuff.
One small detail you might have noticed is that Shining picked up the gold in this chest. That is why the flail was picked up in Siege 1, as you cannot grab gold from a chest unless you have a melee weapon. But other than that, yeah, that's kind of the level. Moving on to the second mech level, this mech section has to be done very close to casually. So, let me just do this. The important thing to note is that the mech challenge for hitting 2 titans with a ground stop is gotten, as it gives Shining Gold, which can be used later for upgrades. In the next section, there's a shotgun that's airdropped to us. Doing a perfect dodge with the mech shotgun equipped will supercharge it, giving it increased damage for the next 3 shots. Shining will farm perfect dodges off of close-by titans while shooting ranged titans with the empowered shot. That is essentially the only sense of speedrun tech being done here. So,
I think he could skip this part, but he's choosing not to because it's fun.
This mantle warp is broken into 2 parts, as despite mantle warping being very powerful, it cannot change the Slayer's height. So, there's a mantle warp to a midpoint in the level to get more height, then mantle warp into the castle to hit a death plane, warping them to the final combat arena of the level, where... Yeah, we already talked about how combat works, but it's cool, ain't it? After a short elevator ride, Shining will warp to the middle of the level to grab a checkpoint. After jumping into the encounter below, he will blow up a barrel, killing 10 demons for the level challenge. This awards Shining a ruby for upgrading the weapon they will use for the rest of the run, which he will warp to about right now. This is the Skull-Crushing Ravager, which will be the main source of damage for the last part of the run. After obtaining it, Shining will warp to the end of the level, as is the normal at this point in the speedrun. I do want to point out that literally every one of these mantle warps requires a precise lineup that Shining does just have to memorize.
We could fix it by taking out the automap.
We should put purple goo in the automap.
Fun fact, the only unskippable cutscene in the speedrun is petting Surat. So thanks, Id. I love our little spear impalee. And after we get on the dragon, the level is played mostly as intended.
Apart. Take them out.
At least you can't see our code.
Alright, that was a bit of a funny, but it's casual from this point on, I swear. He did that as hitting a checkpoint from out of bounds allowed him to skip to a further state of the level. Typically, dragon levels allow you to tackle objective orders in whatever way you want. However, this level is different, as it is impossible to reach the second encounter without doing the first casually. It's just how the level is built, so skipping to this section that's only accessible after completing the first combat arena makes the game think we completed it. They just didn't check to see if we did the first one. The rest of the level just boils down to optimal dragon lines and combat. I'm going to do you a favor and speed through this, as this section is basically indistinguishable from someone's casual playthrough.
Okay, so Dragon, besides going through the map level part, is pretty solid technically, guys, so
Yeah.
pat myself on the back.
Since we have the most meta weapon, Shining will put it to good use. The final fight of From Beyond is one big arena. After the initial spawns, heavy demons evenly spawn throughout the arena, so Shining will ping pong from the left side to the right side, and back and forth until the final wave of enemies spawn. Then, it's as simple as shooting the Vagary and the Revenant until they die. That tech was called left click and memorize spawns. In Spire of Nerethul, we're supposed to release an ancient old one from their containment chamber by getting the BFC and shooting the heck out of it. So, Shining...
Why would they hide this from us? The makers didn't know it was... Hold your position.
Oh
Okay,
my god.
did it in 17 seconds.
The beginning island is where the end level trigger is, so one mantle warp is all you need. But this speedrun skip comes with a drawback. That means we do not have the ballistic force crossbow. Runners pass picking up this weapon that kills entire rooms with one shot, and we do that because that has to do with the BFG progression throughout the modern Dooms. You see, the BFG in 2016 was really strong, and the BFG in Eternal got a little weaker. And in the Dark Ages, well, the BFC just had an even steeper decline in value. Google BFC inflation if you want to know more. So, despite not unleashing Cthulhu, he still brings us to his realm anyway. The Cosmic Realm obviously takes inspiration from Lovecraftian horror, so if the speedrun doesn't make sense to you, it adds to the theme, which means it's actually good shut up. Like how as soon as Shining gets out of a tentacle water ooze, they'll trigger a mantle warp on a nearby ledge, and this warp skips to the end of the next level, Carthul Marshes, which is loaded in at the same time.
What if this is how everyone played the game, Hugo?
That would be sick. It would make making them a lot faster.
Temple of Lomarith is composed of various individual maps, so Shining will warp to the end of each of them, one at a time. The first mantle warp takes them to the Tentacle Goo realm, of which I'll let play out in its entirety. Did you notice something there? Did you notice that Shining was slightly wiggling to the left and right the entire time?
I'm confused. Did he just do something weird with the swimming, or is this correct?
When swimming, whenever you change direction, you're given a little bit of speed boost. So Shining just wiggles left and right to constantly get that speed boost. That saves up to 5 seconds when done optimally. Shining will go into the big nether portal at the end of the next Cthulhu realm. Casually, this arena is a big battlefield fight that, when finished, opens up a portal that teleports you to a even more effed up version of the arena for another fight. These are actually the same map, just most of the collision is hidden to you initially. Knowing that, it would follow why Shining will climb up onto the ship, mantle warp to the top of another ship, and then shield boost up to the shield boost speed rings that are only supposed to be accessible in the nightmare version of this arena, skipping the biggest level in this level. After another swimming section, we end up in the last Lovecraftian realm. Two of the vagaries spawn in, and alright, you know it, I know it, Shining isn't gonna fight them at this point. Instead, he'll climb up a cliff and mantle warp to the ship to grab a Wraithstone, an upgrade that will be used later, and then load checkpoint. This will reset their position to outside the ship so that they can, after which they'll clip through the door on the platform in order to climb the stairs to get to the end of the level. Casually, what's supposed to happen here is that you're supposed to watch a big cutscene, and then for convenience, get teleported to the top of the stairs for the final encounter. But let's back up. How did that clip work? This is what's known as a weapon wheel clip. The game checks for physics interactions at a set time interval. Slowing down time slows down the rate of its physics detection, but it doesn't slow down player input, meaning that if you open the weapon wheel and move forward into a wall, and keep doing that, you'll eventually go all the way through. This mechanic is FPS dependent, meaning more frames equals faster clips.
You know, clipping is our favorite thing.
It's an art, really.
On console, you'll struggle to get any clip due to the console's low frame rate. Also that they patched it so that you can't do it anymore, sorry. The FPS is capped to 200 for speedruns in order to make the game more fair, as we don't want someone to have a faster time simply because they have a better PC. I do wish to point out that that was the first time a glitch that can make you go through walls anywhere at any point in time was used in the 17th out of a 22 mission campaign. This speedrun's that busted. So after walking through a wall, we climb the stairs to the end of the level. Shining is making sure to walk on the railing of stairs because the actual stairs does not have collisions. After hitting a death plane of the arena, Shining will get warped into the final arena, but since he climbed the stairs himself, the fight does not spawn in, and he will hit the final trigger of the level. Wait a second, this level didn't happen. I pulled a bit of a ruse on you with that last level. It actually completed 2 levels with that last stairs clip. Normally, when you triggered the cutscene, you'd be stopped with Cthulhu, to where you'd do some weird Cthulhu-Vor crossover level, in which you'd have to fight your way out of his digestive tract. You'd emerge from his gaping wounds at the final arena of the last level, to where you would fight your way back to the podium. It doesn't make a copy of that arena for you to fight in Chapter 18. It is literally the same arena as Chapter 17. So that means Chapter 18's ends level trigger is located at the top of the stairs. That is, 3 times we've skipped entire levels in this game, in case you were counting at home. Fun fact, we would have skipped Siege Part 1 to the end of Siege Part 2, but we cannot move the map far enough to mantle warp to where the second map is loaded. Get crackin', nerds watching this video. Back to the topic at hand. Doom Guy fucking dies. Welcome to the level that plays every time someone dies on Ultra Nightmare difficulty. Welcome to Hell, where much like the Cosmic Realm, Shining will mantle warp and fall. Welcome to the end of the level. Casually, Doom Guy would get on the ship after paying the ferryman, and then ram it through the world tree to get out of there. Or something like that. This ship is not where it is physically on the map. It's directly below the map. So Shining will just fall to it, and weapon wheel clip in, and then Hell has been climbed out of. Quite literally. Welcome to Resurrection, the true, most casual level in the run. 3 main encounters have to be completed before Surratt comes to fly us to the final section of the level. This flying section can be accessed early, but we'd only be able to get to that area as the Slayer, and that section is long. So, yeah. The only feasible way to get through it would be to mantle warp, but the final location is also high in the sky. And since mantle warps cannot change your height, yeah, Shining has to do all these combat encounters. At the beginning of the level, there is a Sentinel Shrine where Shining will upgrade the Ravager fully. This Skull minigun will do more damage after its initial ramp up, enemies that are shot will also drop health, and the final upgrade makes them drop ammo. This is optimal for this run because it has really high damage numbers, and there is no need to melee to refill ammo. Also, any better weapon for niche combat scenarios is just... it's more time to pick up than this one. And well, I'd explain this level to you, but since you've watched up until this point, I trust you know the logic of every decision that he'll do. Shining's goals are simple, 3 combat encounters, and the method is obvious, just simple 2 steps.
Rip and tear until it is done.
After all the combat, Shining will grab the Berserk powerup. This powerup makes you do more damage, deal damage faster, move faster, and not use up ammo while it's active. He'll then immediately 180 and ride Surratt out. After one linear dragon flying section, he's at the ship to the last boss fight. Oh yeah, the Berserk powerup is still going on. Its timer only counts down when we're acting as the Doom Guy. Shining has to move quickly as the Berserk counts down. Quickly, and he mantle warps to the first phase of Creed Maker. And with a fully upgraded pulverizer with Berserk, yeah, that just kind of happens. Going into the second phase, Shining will immediately melee to stun Creed out of his invulnerable blue bubble phase, and then proceed to do the exact same thing again. While in the Glory Kill state, the game applies a flat damage resist value to every attack. Landing every pellet on him with this state is just faster than Glory Killing him and dealing with his attack patterns.
We need to remove that gun from the game.
Welcome to the final mission, where we get another mech section. Except no, after skipping the cutscene, reloading checkpoint, and skipping the cutscene again, the game gets confused and loads the Doomslayer into the mech level without his mech. And so, Shining will just start walking. There is no mantleable collision until this point off in Narnia. We believe this is because the mech section was not made for Slayer collision. So it makes sense that the level designers were working with way bigger hitboxes that the Slayer could not possibly interact with. This building looks a higher detail than other buildings around the area. So is it possible that this building is just a held over asset that was meant to go into a Slayer level that was reused here later in development? Maybe. Regardless, Shining will now warp to the end boss fight. This puts him on top of an invisible wall so that he can drop down to trigger the fight and then mantle warp into the boss arena. One error during this sequence means that Shining will have to do the entire level again. And in case you're wondering, yes, doing the level that way is faster than fighting all 3 mech fights and the old one boss fight. About 2 minutes of time save. After 3 phases of standing in his face, not parrying a single attack, as he does every anime combo in the book, Shining just holds M1 and shoots him in the face.
He has to stand and fight.
Parrying slows down time, which means it's actually unoptimal to do, as that timer is counting real time. Healing from the pulverizer makes it so that we out-heal his damage to us, since this is Aspiring Slayer difficulty. And with that, we kill the very evil bad guy ass crack, and Doom Guy finishes the game at a lore-accurate power level. So Ozrock threw a cloud of dust like so big that he got away, so we have to chase him down and kill him, or whatever, plot reasons. So, Shining will mantle warp to the end of the level.
Skip and bypass until it is done.
After hitting the trigger to be teleported onto Ozrock's ship, he will then grab the Berserk power-up, and then one last time, and
Kill him. Avenge you. I command the whole.
Final time for this segmented speedrun was about 40 minutes, 35 seconds. The current world record by Seeker is a few minutes slower than that. Thank you very much to Shining for providing all this excellent footage for me. And if you're wondering how all that happened, oh hey, check out this video by my buddy Waifu. And if you didn't like glitches or hate Doom the Dark Ages and still made it here, why? But also thanks. If you're interested, I stream to this channel every week on Sundays, mainly as a way to real-time interact with my community as I fulfill my masochistic tendencies live. Some of those don't even get turned into videos, so make sure to check them out. The amount of me quietly eating while watching other people's videos is at 0%, so it's better than most streams. Just saying. That's it, y'all. I'll catch you in the next vid. Peace.
Hey, we did all this work so you guys could have this fun.
Yeah. This 40 minutes of fun.